Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Level Up. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a Director of Programs at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit that's building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. At the center, we celebrate Black entrepreneurs every day. So please join us in celebrating Black Business Month. It's the last day of Black Business Month in August as well. As you may have just seen in the chat, the Nasdaq Center, along with our partner Mentor Club, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. You can create your own advisory board to guide and inspire you with in-the-moment mentorship from top experts and professionals dedicated to providing exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So find or become a mentor today by using that link in the chat. Mentorship matters to all entrepreneurs. Their success is dependent on it. Quick housekeeping item, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event, so please submit those questions for us in the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. We hope to get to them all. Now, none of what we do here at the center could be possible without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, VPN, and HubSpot. We're grateful and humbled by their contributions. Now, during these still unique times in so many ways, we're curious on how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs that we work with. So I'm going to launch a quick poll to just let us know how you're feeling about your business right now. Are you optimistic? In survival mode? Feeling a little anxious? Let us know. We use this to inform the support and wellness systems that we should be creating for the entrepreneurs, that we serve. I'm going to let this roll for another moment or so. All righty, I'm going to end this poll. Thank you all for voting. And share those results. Looks like optimism is in the lead, but there is a little bit of survival mode and anxiety out there. So hopefully this presentation today and the ones we're going to be presenting in the future will help with those sentiments. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome in the chat to our special guest. Peter DeHaas is founder and executive director at the San Francisco Disability Business Alliance, serving Northern California and the Greater Bay Area. Peter, welcome.
Hi there. Thank you, Colin. And thank you to the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center for collaborating with the San Francisco Disability Business Alliance on this unique opportunity to reach out to entrepreneurs with all types of disabilities and really help individuals imagine a way to harness their creativity. So hence the name Level Up, taking it up a notch, and really thinking about ways that we can capture our creativity. And it's no small feat to start a small business, but we know everybody here in the Bay Area has at least one side hustle. So I'm anxious to be here today with you all and excited to share a little bit about my experience as being an entrepreneur and what I've learned along the way. First, just a little.
And if you press present, I'm seeing a small, almost a full screen, but you're almost there. Just the play button.
There we go.
Button. All right, looking forward to it.
Thanks, Colin. I had to reload it during your introduction there. So just a little bit about the San Francisco Disability Business Alliance. The mission of the SFDBA is to really support the attainment of economic self-sufficiency for individuals with all types of disabilities through entrepreneurship and business ownership. We launched in March of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, with over 100 participants at the Marriott Marquis downtown. So it was literally one of the last in-person events we had here in the city and county of San Francisco. Luckily, nobody got sick, but what an amazing time. And we shifted our gaze quickly during the pandemic to assist businesses through the fallout that came from the pandemic with PPP access and creating resources. But the SFDBA, really the genesis of it came out of my observation that there was an opportunity in the Bay Area to really put disability entrepreneurship on the map. And honestly, that's where it came from. I saw a great need and a great opportunity. These are just a few faces of some of our amazing entrepreneurs in the SFDBA network. In particular, Nader Bahu in the center there, recent San Francisco State film graduate. We helped him get access to the Warner Brothers boot camp program for young filmmakers. And to the far left of your top left of your screen, Rome Jones just passed his real estate broker's exam, and we've helped Rome get access to some mentors here in the Bay Area. So really proud of all of the folks that make up our network. Just a few of the key metrics from the past year or so of the work that we've done, and looking forward to continuing to build our network. Really exciting time for the SFDBA. And you can see that we are really serving a diverse group of folks here in the Bay Area. So there's a great need for this type of support that we're providing. In this year, we had the goal of getting incorporated. We're currently working with an attorney to get incorporated. Previously, we've been working under a fiscal sponsorship, and we're excited now to be going after our own 501c3 status here. And we've added a service learning component. So we've already checked the box for 2 of our goals for this year. We're working with students at San Francisco State, where I also teach, and we're connecting them to the SFDBA for internship opportunities. So Level Up, this is our opportunity to talk about the Level Up training that we're providing today. And really, again, I want to help individuals imagine how to really harness their creativity. You know, there are many steps to starting a small business. So much of what I'll be discussing today is through the lens of my own path of being an entrepreneur and starting a social venture like the SFDBA to really make an impact in the Bay Area. So much of what I've learned is through my own experience. I don't have a background in business. My background is in linguistics in particular. So this for me, it wasn't a stretch because I've had a small business before in terms of consulting and such, but this is really, yeah, my opportunity to share a little bit of what I've learned along the way. And I really think the 2 key things, the 2 key takeaways from today are network, and believing in yourself. So those just to start off, and we'll talk more about that. But why start a business? Why start a business? You know, today a lot of folks are with disabilities are unemployed or underemployed. In my experience, having disabilities myself, I know that individuals with disabilities are tenacious and have grit and creativity. And like I said earlier, everybody here in the Bay Area in particular seems to have a side hustle, and everybody has some sort of creativity that they want to share. So there's lots to be gained from that, having that creativity and really thinking about what is it that I bring to the world? What can I share? What am I passionate about? How can I make an impact? So just to get those thoughts going. And I'm sure some of you might be a little bit further along, but really thinking about what it is you want to do, what type of business you want to deliver. Is it in manufacturing? Is it brick and mortar, having a storefront of some sort? Is it online? I really wanted to have a social impact. So I recognized that the SFDBA was an opportunity to not only bring the disability business community together, but also make an impact in the lives of individuals to help them go out and make a difference in the world in whatever way they saw fit. So really just starting to think about what gifts you have to share, what is your passion, what types of interests do you have? So at a very basic fundamental level. And often, I think about what really constitutes being an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur is somebody who's creative. There's a lot of stick-to-itiveness with being an entrepreneur, and just really thinking outside the box. Starting your own business gives you the opportunity to be creative and autonomous. So for individuals with disabilities in particular, it gives you the ability to be more independent. Maybe you have doctor's appointments or other commitments to attend to. Having your own business, sometimes you're working around the clock, but when you want to turn it off, you can turn it off too. So it gives you that flexibility. An entrepreneur is a problem solver. There's a certain amount of risk involved in being an entrepreneur. But again, I find that most entrepreneurs that I meet have a certain amount of grit and determination, but also flexibility and being nimble. Sometimes things change quickly and you have to change your plan entirely. So having that level of flexibility, as my father, who's 91 years old, would say, you have to improvise and adjust. And he still says that every day. And I'm thankful that he's still here with us, but improvise and adjust. So having that ability to be flexible and be able to change your plan if you need to. Sometimes those forks in the road give us an opportunity to kind of reevaluate and come up with a different path or a different solution or a different idea. So again, we're here today to really talk about harnessing our creativity and thinking about ways that we can get from that beginning phase of starting a business with, for me, it started with coming up with a name, San Francisco Disability Business Alliance, searching for that name, doing market research to see who else in the Bay Area was doing this type of work or providing this type of support, thinking of a logo. I know that might be 2 clicks ahead for some people, but for me as a visual person, it was very important for me to have an idea of what it was going to look like. So when I started emailing people inquiring about it, it's a look of a professional. So I wanted a professional logo. And at the time, my partner was telling me, don't worry about the logo. But as a visual person, I really wanted to see that logo. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, that is the logo of the SFDBA with a picture, the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. So it catches people's eye. Another thing you want to do is be able to start to think about writing a mission statement. Keep it short and sweet to start, or maybe it starts long and clunky, and over time that mission statement is organic and it's going to change and evolve over time. So again, things are going to change, and don't be steadfast to that one notion that, okay, I have to come up with a mission statement and that's it. It's going to change and evolve over time. So start writing, maybe it starts in your journal and just start writing things down, ideas. Again, doing the market research, coming up with your brand. Who are you going to be serving? How are you going to deliver this service? The SFDBA provides mentorship, educational opportunities, networking opportunities, resources, really helping people to get connected with their own community as well as the broader business community. So think about how you want to deliver that and what that will look like. Again, thinking about your network. That's my biggest takeaway for today. When I started SFDBA, it started as a conversation at, being in the Bay Area. We're very fortunate to have many opportunities to network. It's one of the most highly networked places that I've ever lived in my life. So whether you're at an after hours event or even on the weekend or in the mountains, I've met people from San Francisco and we exchange cards. So there's always an opportunity to network. And when I say that, think about your immediate network too, your friends, your family, who's there to support you, your therapist. I'm not joking. Being an entrepreneur, you have to take care of your physical and mental health. You have to have a network. It can be a very daunting and isolating venture. So you have to be sure that you have everything in place, and it's going to be evolving. You're going to meet new people. You're going to have new connections. But I was doing research the other day, and I was thinking about the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon thought. That's no joke. Being able to link to somebody who knows somebody else that knows somebody else. Every conversation that I've had along the way has been valuable to me in some capacity. And being able to think of who can I link to, or who does this person know that I can link to? And it's very fortuitous how it all starts to unfold. Somebody knows somebody else, or it's a very small community here in the Bay Area. As vast as it may seem, we're very fortunate to have a close-knit community here. So be aware of who is in your network and think about who has got your back, who can provide a lifeline. I had to make a phone call last week in a moment where I have a big event coming up in October, or we have a big event coming up, and I needed to reach out to somebody, one of my board members, for a lifeline. So you have to have that support. And you might think to yourself, well, how is the SFDBA any different from any other support system for entrepreneurs? The SFDBA really wants to help individuals start thinking about how they are identifying with their disability as it relates to their business as well. And when I say that, when you're harnessing your creativity, you can think about who's in my network as it relates to my disability. How do I identify with that? It could be a feather in your cap. There are a lot of entities currently looking to diversify their supply chain, looking to include small business owners with disabilities. So it could work to your advantage in thinking about how you market yourself, the purchasing power of harnessing the disability community to purchase your products or access your products. So thinking about what's unique about you and your particular disability, that you can reach out to the broader disability community and be an example for everyone else. I know some of the questions that came through early on were asking about benefits in particular. Some individuals with disabilities rely on benefits, whether it's Social Security or Medi-Cal or access to benefits through Healthy San Francisco. So there are real fears and potential barriers for individuals with disabilities as it relates to earning too much. So there are ways that you can mitigate those fears. And, as my friend Stephen Dale, who is a great special needs trust attorney here in the Bay Area, his motto is, the sky's the limit. Work to get off of benefits altogether. And I'm not suggesting that you run out and, start thinking, oh, I'm going to get off benefits tomorrow. But that can be a goal. That can be a goal of yours to really think about, oh, by having my own business, this could be a pathway to a sustainable lifestyle for myself. But in the meantime, you have to have your support in place. So I'm going to go to this slide first. A few of the things to think about in relation to the dreaded benefits cliff. Think about setting up an ABLE account or a special needs trust. Those are ways that you can save money at the same time for disability-related expenses to protect your earnings and not immediately get kicked off of benefits. As we know, with Social Security, there's what's called the Substantial Gainful Employment, or the SGA, which is $1,350 for individuals with disabilities, the earning cap, and $2,200 for individuals who are visually impaired. So recognize that there are those limits, and I know it's difficult within the system that we live in sometimes to imagine what is going to incentivize you to get off of those benefits. But from my perspective, there's a sustainable life on the other side. So I know that it can be big and scary to think about losing those benefits, but there are ways like the ABLE account and special needs trust that, and I'm happy to discuss further with any of you offline how to get started with that. And I've provided links in the end for more info that way. Access to capital is essential in starting your small business, whether you're an LLC, just a sole proprietor. Many people start their business as a sole proprietor, as an LLC, maybe then getting incorporated as a C Corp or an S Corp later on. With a social venture like SFDBA, I decided in order for it to have more of a charitable component, we would go with the nonprofit model. So when you're thinking about access to capital, you think of angel investors, people who are looking for opportunities to invest in certain startups, corporations in the case of nonprofit ventures. There's lots of corporate support, grants. There are grants out there for small businesses getting started, either for startup costs or for programmatic running programs. There are loans, personal investors, venture capitalists, and then what's called CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, which I've provided links to several different options for you all to access ideas around capital too, and getting access to capital. Any questions so far that have come up? I feel like our time is rolling along here pretty smoothly, and just wanted to see if any questions have come up. I'll address another question that came up prior to this event relating to self-advocacy and in particular the provision of ASL interpreters in the Los Angeles area. And self-advocacy is something that is a lifetime for individuals who are deaf in particular. So as a dear friend of mine said, put it in writing, make the request in writing, make the request beforehand so that the entity is well aware of the fact that you need an interpreter. When we launched SFDBA, we had interpreters at our event, our launch event, and one of the participants, Russ and Melody Stein from the world-renowned Mazzeria Pizzeria, They've since sold it, but at the time at our event, they said, Peter, we wish we had somebody like you when we launched. We had no idea that there were all these resources to access and how to get access to interpreters at the time. So being able to readily self-advocate and putting it in writing. So I know that discrimination still occurs and it's unfortunate, but that's another way that SFDBA can help with strategizing ways to communicate that to a business, in a non-threatening way, just making your request. So I'm happy to help with that as well. Another question was specific to visually impaired services. The Department of Occupational Rehab in the state of California specifically has an entrepreneurship program for individuals who are visually impaired. So I would suggest, and the link is in the resources at the end, scouring that page and seeing what they might have to offer. On the note of entrepreneurship within the DOR system as it relates to individuals with other types of disabilities, you have to be a pretty strong self-advocate and have a solid business plan in place and a solid mission in place. And that's something that the SFDBA can help with. And that's something that we're currently working on here in the city and county of San Francisco with families and individuals with disabilities. So we're happy to help grease that wheel and make a connection within that system. We know that there's opportunities within that system, but it's not made widely available. So I'm happy to help folks navigate that as well. Somebody asked a question about intellectual property and protection toolkit. My rule of thumb is to have it in writing, have a clear agreement in writing before you just give away your intellectual property to another entity. So you have to have some sort of agreement in place, and that's something that I'm happy to help individuals with editing or just going through it and making sure that it's in the correct format and make sure that it sounds correct so that you're not going to lose your intellectual property at the end of the day. So just looking at my notes here. I think, Colin, we're ready to open up for Q&A. If anybody currently has questions, I will just reiterate that really maximizing your network and believing in yourself. Even if you don't believe in yourself, you've got to stay positive and believe in yourself. And really, just to recap, harnessing your creativity involves doing your market research, having a sound business plan, making sure you have your mission, your logo, your name, deciding what type of business model you want to have. Like I said, many small businesses start with just an LLC to keep it simple. But if you are a community benefit organization, maybe going the nonprofit route is a way. The way we started, as I said, we started with a fiscal sponsorship because it is a process to get a your own nonprofit status. So somebody like Social Good Fund might be a good place for you to start. They've been very helpful for us through the pilot phases, but it gets to a point where you have limits on how much you can build capacity in your business as a nonprofit in particular until you get your own 501c3 status. So yeah, the sky is the limit. I'd be happy to answer any questions that come up right now, and just want to go through the resources at the end. Respectability is an organization out of Southern California, in particular for entrepreneurs, and they also have access to, like I said, Warner Brothers, for filmmakers, and the Small Business Administration, access to capital or mentors here in the Bay Area, Working Solutions, access to CDFI. So if you need to get capital, our partners at Working Solutions can help individuals get access to capital. We work closely with the Office of Small Business, how to get certified as a small business here in the city. We also work closely with the state of California. If anybody's interested in getting certified that way, it is a rigorous process, but it is doable as well. There's the link for the ABLE account and how to get connected to setting up an ABLE account or a special needs trust. Our partners at Stephen Dale Law Firm here in the Bay Area are very qualified. And that's more attuned to families with a young adult with a disability, or even an adult who's living independently. If you want to maintain access to your benefits for a while you're working through setting up your business, that's not a bad thing to explore. Other resources and models, the Helpers Community, one of our sponsors here in San Francisco, has a storefront on Union Street that sells the artwork of individuals with all types of disabilities, predominantly intellectual disabilities. But you should go by Union Street and see that model. Creativity Explored is another model here, helping individuals with disabilities harness their creativity and create a small business with their artwork. The Arc of San Francisco is starting to do some entrepreneurship work in partnership with SFDBA. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, the California Department of Occupational Rehab, if you're visually impaired, they have specific programming for individuals who are visually impaired as it relates to entrepreneurship. And I know that there's a pot of gold there for other individuals with disabilities as well. We just have to stay on them about that. And I'm happy to advocate to that end to help somebody write a solid business plan and get that pushed through DOR. I have great success with it in the state of Colorado. So I know it's doable here. We just have to continue to push. Creative Growth is in the East Bay, doing some work as it relates to individuals with disabilities in the arts as well. You should check them out. And in terms of entrepreneurship and education, being an entrepreneur, you are always learning. So be ready to roll up your sleeves and learn something new every day, whether it's through the SFDBA. Into Action is another entrepreneurship organization here in San Francisco that has, they currently incubate small businesses, in particular in the food industry. They have a space over in Bayview, Hunters Point. So that's another model. I'm hoping that SFDBA will soon be incubating businesses as well. But currently we're partnering with Into Action and highlighting some of their businesses, predominantly individuals of color. So check out Into Action. Renaissance is another entrepreneurship center here in San Francisco that provides entrepreneurship training. And Golden Gate University, where I used to work, has a free program for entrepreneurs. I think the deadline for their application is September 16th, which SFDBA went through that program. And they also have a master's program in entrepreneurship for any veterans in attendance. Golden Gate University has one of the best veteran programs of all the private universities in the Bay Area. And I encourage you to explore that. They do a nice reimbursement for veterans, and they have a great disability program there at GGU. And last but not least, I wanted to alert you all that in alignment with National Disability Employment Month, the SFDBA will be hosting its second annual Bay Area Disability Entrepreneurship Week, October 11th through the 15th, which will include diverse panels, business owners, local leaders, a networking event with some resources, as well as we're going to visit some of the small businesses in the Bay Area. So we're going to do, I believe, 2 days of visiting small businesses. So save the date for that. And yeah, I will open it up for questions now, Colin.
Awesome. If you want to stop sharing your screen, we can have a hopefully Brady Bunch moment with me, you, and the interpreter. So we're almost all pinned. There we are. Well, Peter, first off, I'm just going to pause and say thank you so much for sharing your experience with our audience today. As we've seen in the chat, so many people are very grateful and inspired by learning from your journey. And thank you again for all of the awesome resources that you provided too. We know many of them, including our friends over at Working Solutions. So of course, as our amazing production team has mentioned, we will share these links, as well as your contact information, as well as the link to the SFDBA after the event. So yeah, just thank you so much. This has been amazing. Also, it goes without saying that the Entrepreneurial Center is also a great place to access education and resources for entrepreneurs. But many of you may already know that as being from our community, but if you're not, check us out at thecenter.nasdaq.org. And also, yeah, thank you, Anna, for dropping the link to the SFDBA. Right before we jump into Q&A, I've got a quick poll. So for those attendees out there, what is keeping you up at night as a business owner? Is it finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? We use this information to help guide the next couple of months of content that we provide for you, the entrepreneurs we serve. So let us know what's keeping you up at night. Hopefully we already have some of these in the books in the next month, but we will definitely use this to help guide our next targets. All right, I'm going to end this poll. Thank you all for voting. I'm going to share these results. Looks like finance is keeping everyone up at night. We definitely have a bunch of those courses, including marketing, up in the next couple months. So just keep a lookout. If you're not signed up for our newsletter.
Can you show that again, Colin?
I will, yeah.
Sorry, scale, yeah, pivot.
Yep, team has continued to be, so these are like the usual ones that keep us up at night, but we'll definitely have some more of these in the coming months. All right, jumping into some of these questions. If you haven't dropped a question in, for those of you who don't have a complete understanding of which of these areas include, thanks for the feedback, Millie. Yeah, in our follow-up survey, we'd love to hear more of that feedback. So we'll share that link at the end of this. If you haven't dropped a question in for Peter, who's been gracious enough to share his time and wisdom, as well as Warren to interpret this conversation, drop them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll definitely be able to get to many of them. So hopefully we'll be able to get to them all. Peter, quick question here. Do you have to be an SF or Bay Area resident to receive these services?
Technically, our scope is focused on the Bay Area. So where's this individual from?
We do not know.
Okay.
They did not give us that, but we can ask them to let us know in the chat. Also, again, another anonymous Los Angeles question. They're saying Los Angeles, maybe?
Is that from Donna?
Yep.
The question from Donna? Yeah, I'd be happy to chat with you, Donna, set up some time to chat. And I had mentioned respectability in the LA area, but I'd be happy to introduce you to those folks.
She said, yeah, great. Also, somebody's having audio issues. I believe you may be the only one, so maybe try logging in and logging back out, or logging out and logging back in. That usually does the trick. Thank you very much. Ooh, Peter, this is a huge question that we can go in so many directions. But sounds like we've got a aspiring entrepreneur out in the audience,
Okay.
and they are asking, what can I earn per month?
Wow. Well, it depends. It depends on what type of business you're starting, what type of capital that you have access to early on, what your model is, how much of a need there is for the particular goods or services that you're providing. But, you know, if you look at some of the famous entrepreneurs in the world that we live in, the sky is the limit. I think at the very least, you can afford to live in the Bay Area, hopefully, you know, and sometimes being an entrepreneur is a pathway to doing something else. Being able to, like, in particular, I have two jobs. I'm teaching here at San Francisco State, but I also have the SFDBA, which is growing over time. So I still have my day job teaching at San Francisco State, but over time, the SFDBA will be my main source of employment. So I think, you know, you could earn a living wage as an entrepreneur in starting your own business for sure, if it's a good enough idea, if it's something that nobody else has thought of, if it's something that is needed and there's a need for it, and that you have a network backing you and a good solid plan. I say the sky's the limit.
Awesome. And my inspirational moment of the day is the sky is the limit in entrepreneurship. But generally speaking, in the early days, people start their ventures as a side hustle so it's not their only form of income. I highly encourage anybody thinking about taking the leap to have at least a couple of months runway. Don't, unless you're a risk taker and you're totally sure of this business going to take off. But
that's a good point, Colin. When we started, we met early on with our partners at the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, who were just great thought partners in getting this off the ground. And one of the things that they instilled in me was having patience. These things take time. You're not going to just start a business overnight. You know, SFDBA is 2 years old, and we're still incrementally making steps to, you know, we're still not incorporated. So we are working towards being incorporated. And yeah, there are times, as Colin said, that you want to make sure that you have a plan in place and make sure that you have enough access to capital early on, that you're not biting off more than you can chew.
Yep. And the sky is the limit to what you can make in the later stages. So yeah, that's my inspirational quote of the day is, yeah, there is no limit to how much you can make as an entrepreneur. Speaking of some of the big mega behemoth entrepreneurs out there. Let's see, another question here. I'm in Kansas receiving SSI, sole proprietor, and have a business that's making jewelry and gifts. Sounds cool. And I need resources and a support network. How do I find those? Who do I reach out to? And also, I would like to use a percentage of my proceeds to fund a nonprofit. Well, congratulations.
Wow.
On all of that. Peter, any comments on that question?
I, again, would really dig deep into what network do you have? I think you said you were from Kansas. Friends, family, other business owners. Are you affiliated with the local Chamber of Commerce there, or any other business support networks? Is there a branch of the SBA or SCORE there? Those are two resources off the top of my head that will help you meet people and get connected to a mentor potentially. And then I like the idea of eventually having some of your money start your own nonprofit. I think that's a really noble idea. So maybe, you know, saving setting up a savings plan with a special needs trust or something like that to start stashing it away, to thinking about the future and how you want to launch your business. And yeah, it's a process. And I think figuring out who your network is there is really going to be instrumental in you then starting to plot steps to start your own business. So my best advice is the local chamber, the SBA, and SCORE if there are chapters in your area there.
Great. And the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, always a resource for anybody globally and any day of the week. Let's see another question here that was pre-submitted that we discussed, Peter, that I'm curious about. Can I lose my disability income by being an entrepreneur? I'm a startup and there's no income to declare.
Well, if you don't have any income to declare, it's not going to impact your Social Security initially, but it's when you start to acquire income and having it in the bank that it could impact your benefits in the long run. So being mindful of that and having a plan in place when you do start to accrue more, there is going to be a point where you might have to make that choice. Do I want to keep my benefits, or is the business really going to take off? And I'm sure that that is a daunting place to be in. So making sure you have your plan in place for when you do make that, maybe looking for other sources of benefits in terms of insurance coverage, prior to losing the benefit, and having access to, if it's going to impact your Medi-Cal benefit in particular, that would be a good thing to have in place.
Okay, awesome. That's great to know. Also, you mentioned CDFIs and grants. Where do you look for grants, and anyone applying for them?
That's a good question. Some of them are through introductions. Many of them are through putting your nose to the grindstone and just searching and searching and searching and looking at who is funding other nonprofits, looking at who's funding other related work in your field. It's all about shots on goal. One of my greatest mentors told me, you just have to keep taking shots on goal. You can't stop. You have, and over time, you will see that there's kind of there's a science to fundraising, and everybody has their different thing that they're looking for in particular, in terms of who you're serving, and what types of services you're providing. Some funders won't even consider you unless you're big enough. Some of the bigger foundations in particular, until you've built capacity and have at least 2 staff members and a budget of over $100,000 or $200,000, they won't even consider you prior to that. So starting small, and I'm happy to share some of our funders over the years, looking at entities that do philanthropic work like the Golden State Warriors or Lyft or Uber, or some of the banks. Most of the banks have a philanthropic arm that are looking to serve projects in particular that are serving underserved communities.
Awesome. And somebody dropped a great grant resource also.
Instrumental.com.
Yep. Also, full disclosure, we have no sponsorship or partnerships other than a friendly educational partnership with this company. But this organization, opengrants.io, the founder over there, Sadale, has actually taught how to apply for grants, how to use the grant ecosystem, because it's, again, as you mentioned, Peter, extremely busy. So you can check that out on our YouTube page. I swear, I think if you just search the word grant on our YouTube page, you'll populate 3 videos that Sadale's done recently. It's free to search and vet grants. Also, if you want to do the premium version, you can hire grant writers, because grants are extremely technical in nature and long to fill out in some ways. So check that out. Again, Sadale's just a good friend and a mentor for people at the center. So that's another great resource for all of you looking to navigate that ecosystem. Let's see. We've got another question / comment. I do advocacy, public speaking, designing holistic and creative art curriculum. Great. Well, I'm sure you and Peter will be friends. Hearing impaired and have questions that others can't answer. Well, just let us know in the Q&A box what we can answer for you. Hopefully Peter will be able to address them. Let's see, what else do we have?
And I'll just add that the arts is frequently a pathway to entrepreneurship. I'm finding in a lot of my research here in the Bay Area in particular, as I noted, there are quite a few entities that support individuals with disabilities in their path to becoming an entrepreneur and sharing their art in a broader capacity.
Amazing. Well, Peter, one of the things that we were discussing early on in this conversation when I got excited about hosting you, what are some things that small business owners, startups need to be thinking about to be more accessible for those with disabilities in even the early stages?
Thanks for that question. That's a very important question. Even this day and age, with the Americans with Disabilities Act being over 30 years old now, it is critical for businesses to think outside the box and to think more creatively about how they are delivering services and broadening and diversifying their business to make it more accessible for individuals with all types of disabilities. Making it a part of your budget. I know that a lot of times when people think about disability accommodations, they're worried that somehow it's going to hit them in the pocketbook. But let me tell you something. Most accommodations cost pennies on the dollar relative to what people worry about. And businesses now should be providing accommodations because it's time. It's for the right reasons, not because they're being forced to do so because there's litigation or somebody telling them that they need to do so. Stay ahead of the curve. Be creative. Think of ways that you can make your business more accessible for the right reasons. The disability community is one of the largest markets in the world. And if your business is accessible, it's going to be more diverse and it's going to help individuals with disabilities access your business. And guess what? That's good for everybody because then there's money flowing in the local economies and there's less need for dependence on social systems. It's a win-win for everybody.
Awesome. All right. Well, Miyoko says I can do better verbally than typing, so we're going to bring you up and allow you to talk. So Miyoko, I hope I'm not butchering that name. I'm going to allow you to talk. Let us know what your question is.
All right, thank you. I give gratitude for everything that you guys are doing. Okay, so I can't hear, right? I wear 2 hearing aids, and people are not used to people that can't hear to speak. And I speak very well. I speak so well. I'm an advocate. I help with policy change, and I'm just all into the community work. But my problem, y'all, I started my own business as a consultant because of the lack of respect and the all of the using for the intellectual properties. How do I protect myself? Because I've ran into so many people that use me, and I'm just on this good energy and it feel good and I'm changing the world and I'm feeling good, but then I'm getting older and I'm starting to understand that people been exploiting me. And I don't know how to protect myself from that. And because I speak well, don't mean I write well. And so I'm forced to type a lot of things and I can't speak verbally sometimes and my writing is not good. And so I feel a little inferior at times because running this business stuff, I need to know like formats and I need to know the language or the wording. And that is the part that I'm having problems in. And I need help in them two areas.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your
ability to even say that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. We're almost at time, so I want to be able to give Peter to comments on hopefully helping you out there. I also have a couple of suggestions for resources, but Peter, we'll start with you.
Amayoko, thank you for that question. When you say your services or your intellectual properties being exploited, I'm sad to hear that, and I would say that it's critical for you to make sure that you are protecting what is legitimately yours, and if you are sharing it with people, you might want to think about getting it, copyrighted or patented as something that is yours, so that people don't have the ability to steal it from you, without your permission for them to use it. I think it's important to protect what you've developed. And the other part of the question was relating to
yeah, I think
wording
around protecting intellectual property and people taking advantage.
But there was a piece about formatting and stuff like that as well. I think that would be something that we could chat about offline, so I could get a better idea of what types of things that you're trying to format, and also refer you to your local SCORE or SBA as well to get that type of mentorship there.
Amazing. And my only two bits of advice for that one would be that you do have to be careful as an entrepreneur. There are people who aren't great players out there in the world. Obviously, it's hard to identify them immediately, so I would never give any secret sauce away before vetting or getting a contract signed with anybody. Also, in entrepreneurship in general, there are a lot of benefits of having legal representation or utilizing free legal counsel. There's tons of resources I'm sure that the SFDBA could lead you to that would help you as throughout some of these things just to protect you. So just saying, I am not a lawyer, so I cannot give you any advice on protecting your IP, but there are tons of lawyers who are committed to helping people like you protect the thing that's putting food on your table and the change that you're trying to make in the world. So shout out to you for sharing your experience with us. Peter, we are at time. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today, your wisdom, your expertise with our panel, with our attendees. We hope you all enjoyed this. We'd love to hear your feedback. So if you have any feedback from us, please drop it in the chat. Peter, on behalf of everyone on our team and everyone in attendance, thank you so much for sharing your story and the SFDBA with us all today.
Thank you, and thank you to the wonderful interpreter. We couldn't have done it without you.
Yes, shout out to Warren, our interpreter, who did not flinch once, even with my quick caffeinated language. Appreciate you. And Peter, we're looking forward to staying in touch. And for those of you still online, we look forward to seeing you all online soon. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks so much.